Hey guys, good evening if you're watching this when it's premiered. Welcome back to my channel, and in today's episode we're going to be doing a little bit of mixing. So I'm going to be going step by step on how I do the mixing for the songs that I make and how I do mixing in general. So what I want to tell you guys, to show you guys today, is my mixing process and how it starts in the beginning. So basically a before and an after. So without waiting any longer, let's get right into the mixing aspect of it. Let's start with the first step, that is allocating the tracks to their respective channels on the mixer. This is a relatively very annoying step to be doing, because honestly you have to be assigning each channel on the mix buses. The first channel, usually I use it for input, and if I want to record some parts again, then I can easily go back there and record it without having to worry about the first channels. Here I'm going to be putting the guitar. So let's see which one is the first guitar instrument. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to route to track number 2. This will be 3. What we're going to do next is name them, and what we're going to do is we're going to name and assign them colors. Color assigning is not really technically important, but for practice it's much more visually more appealing. Plus, it's easier to tell without reading the track name. You can just zone in directly on, just say for example, I usually assign blue for drums, so I know the blue instrument. If anything that I want to correct, or if I'm hearing something that I want to correct and I want to go to drums directly, I can directly go to the blue section, and then from there I can look through which instrument that I want to be tuning or adjusting. So after that, the next thing after we name them, what we're going to do is we're going to assign colors, and then we'll move forward towards leveling. Let's get into it. We are now at the leveling phase. What we'll do right now is we're going to just use our volume levels to kind of get all the volumes of the instrument where we want. And then we'll move forward to equalizing and using a little bit of other plugins where necessary. After that, we're going to adjust the space and then the depth of each instrument by using volume faders or delay, reverb, etc. So let's get right into it. What I like to do in the beginning of every mix is just take all the volumes down up to 35%. Then what I'll do is I'll reset my bus. I like to control the signal source, but sometimes when they need to be moved by volume, it's easier to move the single faders, especially for the left and right channels. It's easier, but for now we can just select this 2. Let's take this guitar palm and guitar palm left and right, and we can move them together. So let's get it around 35. Okay. And what I like to do is I like to take out all the buses and keep it just next to each other, so when I'm adjusting later, it's so much more easier. And I just want to play with the buses. To let you know, I'm mildly colorblind, so it's not easy for me to distinguish colors. So I'm gonna turn it into a color which has more or less more contrast with other colors. That's more like it, I suppose. Yeah, so now none of the 5 colors look remotely the same. So after I do this, what I like to do is I like to go to my master and I like to use this one plugin called Sonarworks. So what this plugin Sonarworks does is, if you see my headphones, the brands aren't clear anymore. It's gotten old, but if you can see, it's written right here. You can't see probably. It's Samsung SR850, I think. Yeah, if you see it here, the model is written. So what it does is that every speaker or headphone have their own coloring, so to say. It doesn't represent the whole smooth flat spectrum. So if you see those headphones that say extra bass and all, it's not optimal for mixing. So what I bought is, it's a studio pair of headphones. It's an open back, so it tends to give a more flatter response. But the thing is, even with the studio headphones or mixing headphones, there is still a little bit of coloring. So in my case, the higher frequencies were really slightly pumped up to give it a more shinier feel. So what this software does, what this plugin does, is they have a sample, basically an EQ sample, where what frequencies are boosted in which headphones. So basically they tame it down and try to give a flatter response in the frequencies. So I use this plugin so that this way I can listen as flat as possible. So that's what Sonarworks does, and that's why I put it in the master bus. Now the reason I brought all this volume down is so that there is more headroom when I'm mixing. And this headroom is not for the effects. If you want more headroom for while mixing single instruments, then you need to lower the source volume. Or you can use a plugin, so you can use Fruity Balance. One thing that helps to give you a different perspective of the mix is there's this one button here. This is stereo separation, if you can see it in this corner, just when I hover the mouse here. Yeah, that's stereo separation. Let's imagine an actual musicians performing in the open, right? So what you want is them to be spread out, right? Because you can't necessarily put them up there, the reason why we spread it out is that we can give more place into the stereo space. The stereo space, because you're listening from the two ears, right? So you want to kind of virtually create that space by placing the instruments in either the left side, or your left will be the side, left side on the right side. Let's get into it. We're not gonna do the stereo separation now. What we want to do is, when we put it all like this, okay, you can tell the sound difference. There won't be left or right anymore. I'm gonna slowly bring it to stereo. So what it does is it brings all of those instruments which are going to be on the side to kind of focus in one place. So while listening, from a listener's perspective, from an audience perspective, that's not a good way to listen to music. But when you're mixing, it helps give you a perspective of how different phasing. Is there any phasing or stereo phasing, right? That's basically when you separate two instruments, and you know how audio waves are up and down, right? Basically there's like phase cancellations. Yes, that's the word. So when the peaks and the troughs are forgot it, peaks, then there's the zero. Okay, think of it this way. This is +1, -1, and there's 0, right? Up, down. So if you think about it, it's gonna be like up, down, right? So when there's an inverted signal, they tend to cancel each other out. So the thing is, you don't want any signals to be canceling each other out. That way you lose a lot of information and the mix doesn't sound as good as it should. Now, another reason why you want to switch between mixing in stereo and mixing in mono is because when you're listening in smaller speakers, maybe like phone speakers which do not have left and right separation, they'll be coming out from one speaker. Or if you think about those Bluetooth speakers with a single speaker, single driver, that this is where the sound comes from. If the studio audio systems with single driver, those use mono signal, those translate the music in mono. So we want to make sure it sounds good in those kind of speakers as well. So it gives you an idea if there is any phasing and information loss when you're going in mono. Now the thing about phase cancellations is that you can't completely eliminate them. There can be, if you are mixing less instruments, yes, that probably, I have no facts on this, but like the more instruments there are going to be phase cancellations and frequency clashes. That's why you're going to use EQs. Now this lead guitar, we want it to sit higher in the volume, like slightly more than it should be the focal point when listening.